Wow, what a goodbye that was. You should have kissed her, though, man. Come on, that was an opportunity. January 3rd, 1868. Almost a month had passed since the Shinsengumi was tasked with guarding the Fushimi magistrate. Tensions were still brewing between the shogunate and Satsuma Choshu armies. Our enemies attempted night raids and instigated small skirmishes, doing everything they could to provoke the Shinsengumi into retaliation. Sheesh, that gunshot. As it seemed both sides were coming to a point, it only took one gunshot for war to break out. Dun dun dun. Ah! I'd heard a thunderous explosion outside, as if the sky fell and crashed onto all of Kyoto. I hoped no one I knew was hurt. Please, anyone out there, stay safe. I clasped both of my hands tightly, and I began to pray to myself for hope. Then I felt a soft hand tap my shoulder with the tips of its fingers. Oh, Inoue.
Everything will be all right. Do not worry. I am sure our allies will return safely in no time. This is similar to how Ikeda went, remember?
Inoue. I knew that he was trying to comfort me so that I'd remain calm, but the hellish sound of gunfire from the outside, without any idea of what was going on, made it difficult to think about anything else. Doesn't this worry you, Inoue? The Shinsengumi men have been fighting alongside you for years, since Edo, too. Inoue gave me a kind smile, tilting his head slightly as he answered.
I would be lying if I said I wasn't worried. However, everyone has roles to play, and in times like these, lives will be threatened. That is why, for now, it is best not to panic and act rashly. Instead, we must wait until such a time comes. Or at least that is how I see it.
Everyone has roles to play. Inoue had a way with words that subdued my anxieties, even as I grew more nauseous. I wasn't sure if it came off that way to him, but I was becoming almost sick with worry. Thank you, Inoue. I think I understand what you mean. Everyone has roles to play. I guess for me, that meant my role was to treat whoever was injured in this tumultuous time. After all, I was the one who decided to stay back, so I must do everything I can to support them. Just them. Oh, hey! Nice to see you around.
Yukimura, is there anything I can help you with?
Soma, who had recently joined the soldiers defending Kyoto, was nervous as he asked. Of course. Let's prepare our treatment stations. Can you please fetch some water from the well?
Got it. Be right back.
Thank you. Soma sprinted towards the well. I think he's our next boy? I gotta look at that again. Okay, so for now I need to fold my clean cloths and I need to find some needles for stitches too. As I was making a mental list of necessary supplies...
God damn it! We just passed New Year's Day and now all hell's breaking loose. Are they even really Japanese that they won't let us eat our 7-herb porridge in peace? Well, even during the whole incident in Ikeda, they interrupted the Yoiyama at the Gion festival.
Soon after, warriors that I'd seen lead the magistrate to fight were being rushed in for treatment. From what I'd seen, the fighting must be horrible. The soldiers were covered in soot from head to toe. Hey, is everyone safe?
We are not your concern. Tend to the wounded.
Alright. Sorry, old being. I just am worried about you sometimes. As Saito had ordered me, I was looking after the maimed men that seemed to pour in. Okay, this may sting a little. Luckily, many of the men I was treating didn't have life-threatening injuries. At least I could take solace in this, and I approached Nagakura to ask him something. Any word on how the war's going?
Well, can't say it's going well.
Huh? But... From what Hijikata had told me, the shogunate forces were well armed and more than enough to handle the Satsuma Choshu in Kyoto.
See, as far as numbers go, we're on top of it, But the Satsuma Choshu have these new guns that shoot farther than anything I've ever seen. As soon as we get close, boom! We're dead. To make it worse, they can fire so quickly that our men can't even wait for them to reload.
No. I knew that, despite the bad news Nagakora and Harada were sharing with me, there had to be some good news happening elsewhere from them. But even so, it seemed like the shogunate was experiencing a tougher fight than they anticipated.
It is true that the situation appears rather negative. However, I do not believe the commander would lead our men to defeat. Exactly. We just gotta have faith in his intelligence. Yup. For now, we just gotta keep on rallying the men who can fight. Right, Sano? Back me up. You know it, man. I got your back.
Aw, friendship. The men spoke with such fearlessness as if today were just any other day. Strangely, though, it only seemed served to worsen my anxiousness for what's to come. A false sense of hope. Afterwards, Nagakora, who volunteered to lead a troop to charge straight through the enemy's front line, was growing more disenchanted. The shogunate army had 15,000 men. The Satsuma Choshu had less than a third of that, and yet the momentum seemed to be on their side. As the war continued, it wasn't only the Fushimi magistrate that was experiencing harsh fighting. Based on the reports piling in from the fronts, the shogunate and Satsuma Choshu troops were clashing everywhere men were stationed. This included the Yugeki unit, with whom Iba was affiliated, around the Yodo domain. I could only imagine where the man, who lamented the very idea of war coming to fruition, could be at a time as frustrating as this. Was he away from the fighting? Was he hurt at all? Iba, please stay safe. The scent of gunpowder stung my nostrils, and I watched the sky darken above. 2 days had passed since the fighting broke out. January 5th, 1868. Sheesh. Ah! The frequency of the cannon fire confused me as to whether they were approaching us or if they were celebrating their victory prematurely. All I knew was the cannon fire became non-stop. Several warriors lying injured in bed jumped from the frightening sound. What the hell was that? Don't tell me the building's coming down! It's all right, everyone. There's no need to worry, so please, just rest. I had made attempts to comfort the warriors as they began to panic, but then... Ah! It sounded like the cannons were cracking into the building directly, bursting through the walls. Ah! The cannon fire was crumbling the roof above, and in the moment, I prepared for it to crash on top of me and kill me, but then... Oh, Heisuke! You alright, Chizuru? I heard a familiar voice. Hey, Furies are here. Sweet. Heisuke! Sanan too! It must have been because the sun was rising, but the two had returned from their night raid. So, how is it out there? Sanan's brow furrowed, silently shaking his head. We were able to move undetected, sabotaging several cannons in their encampments. But we don't have enough Furies out there. It's gonna be impossible for us to turn the tide. Oh no. If our captain's swordsmanship and our Fury Corps combined weren't enough, then... perhaps this is it. As Sanan muttered his cynical musing to himself, cannon fire rang in the background. Suddenly.
Yukimura, are you safe?
Hijikata! Inoue!
You guys were looking out for her, huh? Thanks. Sanan, Heisuke.
Hijikata nodded his head to the two men, and Sanan remained stoic, offering no greeting. That's why we love him. Although it pains me to admit this, Hijikata, I think it is clear the way this war will end. The Fury Corps has been fulfilling its role to the extent that it can, but considering that they are besting us at every turn, it is becoming hopeless. Hijikata bit his lips, balling his hand into a tight fist as his comrade shared his opinion. Hijikata's display made each of us aware just how frustrated, how hurt he must have been. In the past, Hijikata always seemed 2 steps ahead on the battlefield with his courageousness and his intelligence. So seeing him even entertain the idea of defeat seemed like something that was impossible for a man of Hijikata's experience to swallow. But eventually... If it were just me, I'd fight until the very end, no matter what happened. But you're leaving me no choice here. The words seemed to cause him pain as they left his mouth, and he turned to face the captains. All troops retreat! Sanan, Heisuke, back us up at the rear, yeah?
Of course. It is as good as done.
Wow, we didn't even have to wait for the magistrate to burn this time around. Nice. Yeah, leave it to us! And you guys are gonna be out in the sun. I couldn't just sit and listen to them as they prepared to move into action. Is there anything I can do to help? Hijikata shot me one of his glances that seemed to indicate to me that he was annoyed. Sanan, on the other hand, paused for a moment before answering my question.
Well, I do have one favor to ask of you, Yukimura. We in the Fury Corps will be engaging with enemy forces to ensure the safe retreat of our comrades. In the meantime, I'd like you to gather all documentation about the Furies and deliver it to Osaka Castle with Inoue.
About the Furies?
Yes, many sacrifices have been made in the effort to improve what is known about the Furies. This would be all for naught, should the documents land in the hands of our enemies.
I gulped at the thought. I had many horrible feelings towards the serum brought into the Shinsengumi by my father. Understood. I will protect them with my life.
Okay, I will count on you. All documentation of little consequences will be burned by me here. In other words, what I am entrusting to you and Inoue to transport is the actual process and ingredients list for the Water of Life. A sparse document, mind you.
Sanan was communicating to me that there could be no mistakes. This was irreplaceable. My legs began trembling as I'd begun to consider the burden of responsibility Sanan placed on me. I am honored. I looked Sanan straight in the face and I nodded. Got it.
Then, if you would kindly follow me, I need to give it to you before this whole building collapses.
All right. We'd walked down the hallway, walls rumbling from the cannon fire, and Sanan handed me the documents before Inoue and I left for Osaka. The amber sun was setting from the smoky sky. Since we'd been retreating with many injured Shinsengumi warriors in tow, it was difficult to move quickly, and we were pressed for time. Inoue, do you think everyone else made it out safely?
Pay those thoughts no heed. When we make it to Osaka Castle, we will see them all again. You have not forgotten what I had told you the other day, right?
No, I haven't. Everyone has their role. So, no matter what, all I could do was be patient and prevent myself from acting rashly.
As the sun sets, it will become more difficult for enemy soldiers to aim their guns. Only a little while longer.
Walking on unpaved roads, I nodded to Inoue. Just then, the echo of nearby gunshots startled me, and I gulped. Inoue ducked down, hiding behind a tree to get a better view of our surroundings.
Those uniforms. They're Satsuma Choshu men.
His confirmation made me grip the bandana on my waist tightly as my hair stood from fear. Harada had mentioned how these new guns could fire from an even further distance than usual. If we were caught, we'd be done for.
We are going to have to make sure they cannot see us.
Right. Inoue whispered softly, and we hid in the shady bushes as we waited for the men to pass. Inoue? Where are we? As he left the main road to hide from the enemy patrol, Inoue and I had found ourselves separated from the rest of our convoy. During our initial escape, a warrior had told us that other domains were joining the war. Domains that had previously declared neutrality were now siding with the Satsuma Choshu to kill off any shogunate men, including leadership.
I believe we are not too far from Kyoto, but...
Kyoto. If I remembered correctly, Iba's Yugeki unit was close by. Was Iba still safe? This anticipation is killing me. Yes, slow footsteps. Just then.
Hey, someone is approaching. Yukimura, hide!
I hid in the shadows just as Inoue had commanded me to. Father! Oh my. A few moments later, I heard the tap of footsteps and a shadow soon followed after. Who could it be? From what I could make out, it looked like a monk. Or it could be a... doctor? But what would they be doing out here? As the shadow drew closer, the person's features became a little clearer. Then I gasped. It was... Father? As the word left my mouth, I froze, watching in disbelief to what was happening before me. There stood Father, whom I'd been searching for all this time, Kodo Yukimura. As he heard my voice, Father slowly turned around.
That voice? Is that you, Chizuru? Are you there, child?
I had longed to hear his familiar voice for so long that I'd almost cried. Inoue, would it be alright if I showed myself to my father? I turned to Inoue, asking for permission despite the possible threat of enemies nearby. However, Inoue's eyes thinned as if he were still suspicious, but then...
Let him know that you are safe.
He kindly obliged me, bowing his head. Oh, Inoue, no. This is a bad idea. I'd nodded back to Inoue, sharing with him a momentary grin before I walked out of the bushes. Father! Is that really you? At long last, it was him. I was flushed with so much emotion that it made me lightheaded. Father smiled brightly, and it seemed like he almost choked up as he greeted me.
Oh, it's been a long time, Chizuru. My, how beautiful you've become.
The only response I could muster was the slow shake of my head. Words struggled to come out. At some point, I honestly started to believe that I would never see him again. But there he was, right in front of me, looking as healthy as I wished he would be.
The man with you over there, you're... Inoue from the Shinsengumi, yes? Thank you for guiding my daughter all the way here.
Well, it's the two fathers meeting.
Please, no need to thank me.
Inoue also seemed relatively happy to see that I was reunited with my father. But what are you doing here? Where were you all this time? Father's expression became glum. His eyes tenderly gazed into mine.
It was my fault for not sending you a letter after all this time. You see, I was taken captive to some place far, far away.
Taken captive? The horrible image of someone taking my father as a prisoner made me flinch. But Father continued on, describing his journey without going into great detail.
I had heard that you were being held captive by the Shinsengumi, Chizuru. I have come in search of you, my child. I was so worried. What if you were caught up in all this needless violence and someone were to hurt you?
Father. As he recounted his story, I could feel the anguish he must have been experiencing. I didn't want him to worry anymore. There was so much I needed to ask him, so much I've been wondering all this time. Now, Father, let's go to Kyoto Castle. The Shinsengumi has men there, and I'm sure they will keep us safe from the Satsuma Choshu troops. In response, however, my father shook his head slowly.
Unfortunately, I have no intention of going to Kyoto Castle. Actually, you won't be going either.
Father? What Father said had seemed a little strange, and his tone became stern, confusing me somewhat. If he were an ally of the Shinsengumi, surely he would seek to rejoin them, or contact the Takagawa clan for aid. So why? Then it hit me. Father had said he was taken captive to some place far, far away. So, how did he have any idea that I had been staying with the Shinsengumi all this time? The pieces weren't adding up, and the sense of unease worried me so much I began to back away. Smartest thing she's done so far.
Just what are you trying to say?
Inoue stepped in front of me, guarding me as he seemed to pick up on the inexplicable strangeness. Well, there's that face again. Then Father Stone became completely cold, one which was completely alien to me.
Do I have to spell it out for you? I'm telling you that I refuse to let my daughter return to the Shinsengumi.
A haunting chill crept down my spine. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it was there. This wasn't the father I knew, just then. I sensed someone was standing behind me. Oh my god, if it's freaking Chicago. As I turned around, I saw... Oh my god, it's Takada! Oh, that's a plot twist right there. I see you have a new... I just shook, like, my mic stand at my desk and everything. That probably came through and sounded terrible. Sorry, flailing. I noticed you have a bandaged hand, monsieur. So... Did you get a new limb attached? Or did you drink the serum and it doesn't quite grow a perfect arm? Like, maybe it looks kinda... so you have to keep it bandaged? I can't believe I'm like... I had a feeling, though. I'm like, you know, if you didn't find his body... You just leave it open for he's gonna come back. I need to drink some water. Just a moment. Okay. Well, let's do this. I'm ready for this. Takada? It was Takada, the Shinsengumi's former captain of the 5th Division. Don't forget it. Inoue's eyes widened incredulously at the sight.
Takada, I heard that you had passed away after suffering a serious stab wound. You are alive?
Yes, I am alive. Thanks to that old man, I have been saved.
What?
Father had saved Takada's life? A man who called me a monster, who threatened to reveal all of the Shinsengumi's secrets, was working with my father? He must have been the one who had informed my father of my involvement with the Shinsengumi. As I attempted to make sense of all of this information, Father seemed ambivalent to my reaction, smiling straight at me. Then he reached his hands out to me, the same hands that used to comfort me as a child.
Now it is time for you to come with me, Chizuru. Nothing can hold you back now.
I couldn't bring myself to accept his hand as easily as I would have in the past.
Yukimura, can you trust Kodo?
Inoue whispered discreetly to me. Before I left for Kyoto, and before I had met everyone in the Shinsengumi, taking Father's hand wouldn't have required a second thought. However, I was far too bothered by something to not be suspicious by all of this. More than anything, too, Sanan, Heisuke, Hijikata, and the rest of the Shinsengumi had placed their faith in me. As it stands, I trust in the men of the Shinsengumi far more than I trust my father. Inoue smiled kindly to my response, and it was in that moment that I'd made up my mind.
I see. Thank you.
Alright. He's like, I don't want to cause you pain, my girl, but I need to know. Now that I have your permission. Then he reached his hand to grip the sword on his waist, unsheathing it with a quick movement.
I will handle this from here. Time for you to go on ahead.
His words slunk heavily, as if there was some finality to them, and it made me nervous. It was as if he didn't expect to come back with me eventually. Inoue? I anxiously called out to him, my voice shaky, but he looked at me with tired eyes, grinning once more.
Worry not. Despite how I may look, I am still a Shinsengumi captain too. I will buy you some time. The closest regiment in our surrounding is the Ugeki unit around Yodo. If you can make your way to them, Iba should be there.
Promise me. Promise me you won't die. If you ever believe yourself to be in danger, run. Do whatever it takes to survive. I shouldn't have listened to you. I should have taken you with me to Osaka Castle today. Promise that I'm making the right choice in letting you stay here, that I don't have to worry about you.
I made a promise to Iba. A promise that he wouldn't have to regret his trust. Ugh.
Now, go. Fulfill what was asked of you.
Alright, I promised. I understand. There was no way I could be okay with abandoning Inoue, but if I wished to fulfill my duties for the Shinsengumi and honor the trust Sanan placed in me, this was the only choice I had. Understood. I couldn't even look Inoue in the face as I answered him, so I kept my head facing the ground. However, I kept myself from crying as I continued to speak.
Good girl. I cannot let you risk your life here. If you were to die right now, there is no telling how much Iba would come to resent me.
I knew that Inoue had said so jokingly, but the unspoken alternative made me want to cry. There was simply no words to say in return, except to say, thank you, Dad and Takeda, for letting us have this farewell moment and not capturing us. Inoue had pointed the tip of his katana towards Takeda and my father.
Now go, Yukimura.
I have to say something! I began to realize that this could be the very last time I see Inoue for as long as either of us live. I'd opened my mouth and it was agape as I struggled to find anything meaningful to say. Then Inoue screamed at me, turning the pit of my stomach inside out.
I said go!
I shut my eyes tightly and I turned around to run away. Then, promise me that we'll meet back at Osaka Castle! I'll be waiting! With that, I'd broken into a sprint away from them. Inoue told me the other day that everyone has their role to play in times of war, that we couldn't afford to be impatient. Now I think I finally hit the time Inoue had been talking about. There was no reason for people to die needlessly when they still have a purpose to serve. Under the blood-red sky, I repeated the sentiment over and over again to push myself, one leg after the other, through the mountainous path.
Isami, Toshi. Now I understand. Sacrificing yourself for someone else. This is another part of what makes a true warrior.